Hello everybody, welcome back to Catch Up Court. I go by the name of Hines, your friendly neighborhood catch up man, and we are back for another video, another stream I should say, because the state and the defense, they've all rested now. They've given their closing arguments, and that's what we're going to be going through on this particular video. And we're also, after going through the closing arguments and giving my analysis of it, we shall be going through all of the days in this trial, recapping the key moments from this trial, so that we could see whether the state has met their burden, or whether the defense has poured enough poison, poured enough bleach in and messed up the whole recipe that has been created by the state. So without further, I just want to say hi to everyone. Welcome to the stream, and hopefully you all are have been following this trial from day one. But if you haven't, and this is your first time joining, I'll just give you a quick brief overview. Donna Adelson, who is a 75-year-old grandma, has been is on trial for the murder for hire plot against her son-in-law, Dan Markel, who was murdered by two hitmen who shot him in the head in his garage. This happened back in 2014, and there's been a slew of cases that has brought us to this particular moment. So Donna has been alleged to be the conspirator, one of the co-conspirators anyway, in this particular case, and responsible for the killing of Dan Markel. So she has faced first-degree murder charge, as well as solicitation to commit murder in a first degree, and also conspiracy to commit murder in as well. So those are the charges that she has faced, and let's just go through the closing arguments, and then we will recap on the days that has been given. So the closing arguments began with Georgia Cappleman for the prosecution, and her starting of the closing arguments, and her starting of it was it was emotional. I must say, but it doesn't. Let me just quickly try and find the timestamp, because I just realized that the stream is still live. The jury is still deliberating. So, and at the moment it's 6 p.m. in the state. So I don't know when they are going to adjourn the jury, but they are still deliberating. So we might actually get a verdict today or tomorrow. I'm anticipating more for tomorrow, and the court may adjourn as well very soon. But yes, let me try and get to the proper spot so that we can start with what Georgia Cappleman was basically arguing in her closing arguments for the case that the state has brought against Donna Adelson. Let's listen to what she have to say. We've been here before. We have been here before where the stream has ran over. They Law and Crime did not turn off the stream, so I've had to guess on the timestamps that because it wasn't like I recorded it. So we survived that one. I'm gonna try and survive this one. So let me try and fast forward a little bit. Let's start right here.
This is Dan Markel. He's the victim in this case. A son, a brother, a colleague, a mentor, a professor, a friend, but most of all, a father, an Abba, a dad, dedicated and loving father whose downfall was brought about by the fact that his number one priority was maximizing his time with those little boys in the wake of a bitter divorce from their mother. Defense called witnesses to come in here and give you an expert opinion that his divorce and the subsequent litigation was not contentious. Not contentious to whom? It was contentious to Dan Markel. It was contentious to Wendi Adelson. And it was contentious to this defendant. And then after telling you what a great guy Dan Markel was in opening statements, they called witnesses to tell you what a pain in the butt he was. And he was a pain in the butt to those people, those awful lawyers that can't even admit that divorces are emotionally charged. He was a pain in their butts. He was a pain in Wendi's butt, and he was a pain in Donna's butt. Why? Because this was his life we were talking about. Dan Markel was not a file on some lawyer's desk. He was a real person who cared passionately about every scrap of paper in that divorce file. He wasn't some bumbling idiot. He was a Harvard-educated law professor. And yeah, he was making it as difficult as possible for this defendant to get her non-negotiable, which just also happened to be Dan Markel's non-negotiable, those two little boys. You have learned about this conspiracy and how it has unraveled over the last 11 years since Dan Markel's death. The defendants in this case have all attempted to point fingers at each other. They have argued that the state's theory is right. It's right. You got it right. With everybody except for me. I didn't do it. Garcia's defense was that Charlie went directly to Rivera to arrange the hit on Dan Markel. Kathryn Magbanua testified in her trial and said she had no knowledge of this murder. Charlie must have gone around her directly to Garcia. In Charlie's trial, he said Magbanua, Garcia, and Rivera all got together to kill Dan Markel without any direction from any Adelson family member. Each defendant characterized himself or herself as another victim in this case. A victim in this situation, a victim of their co-defendants, setting them up, or the appearance of evidence that seemed to implicate them but wasn't what it appeared to be. But despite their efforts to insulate themselves and to distance themselves from their co-conspirators, they made enough mistakes to get themselves caught and held accountable for their respective roles in this conspiracy.
Before I continue, I thought it was interesting that she highlighted the inconsistencies that Kathryn Magbanua and Charlie and all of that were saying in the trial, because I can't recall, maybe it's my memory, but I couldn't recall that all through the case. So I recalled that Kathryn had said that she had lied in previous proceedings, but I don't think that the content or the substance or the nature of her lies were brought into into evidence. So I don't know. I don't know, but her highlighting that, very interesting in my opinion. Yeah. So I honestly saw where she was going with it, because of course she's saying that they are all saying all these things, and it adds to the idea in regards to Charlie as well, saying that Kathryn Magbanua was blackmailing him alongside with the blackmailers. So, but let's continue.
And today is Donna Adelson's turn. Despite their efforts to play victims, Dan Markel is still the only victim in this case. And the only thing he was guilty of was fighting like hell for those little boys. And he lost. He lost everything. This is what he looked like before. This defendant conspired to hire a hitman to have him killed, and this is what he looked like after. The evidence has shown that on July 18th, 2014, this brilliant, accomplished, beloved man was gunned down in cold blood in his own garage. And this horrific death ultimately set the police down two separate paths, following the two most promising leads that they had. The first lead was to chase down that Prius that, thank God, Mr. Geiger caught a glimpse of pulling out of the driveway that morning. And the second path was to ask, as we would with any murder investigation, who had a motive to want him dead? And within 1 hour of the shooting, well before Professor Markel had even been pronounced dead, this path was already pointing to the defendant when Wendi Adelson revealed to officers that her parents had more reason to dislike her ex than anyone else. And what offense had Mr. Markel committed against Donna Adelson and her family? Refusing to let his children be taken away from him? Objecting to her telling his kids that he's stupid? The evidence has shown that Donna Adelson was all about psychological warfare, and when all else failed, she was willing to do whatever it took to accomplish her non-negotiable, to get a win. In order for you to render a verdict of guilty, the state must prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt that these crimes were committed and that this defendant is the person who committed the crimes, or in this case, one of the persons who committed the crimes. It is undisputed that these crimes were committed. This was a first-degree murder. No doubt about that. But who did it? The only issue left is identification, or what we call ID. The defense told you in openings, motive doesn't really matter. Don't pay attention to all the motive. Don't pay attention to all the emails. But motive can be compelling proof of who done it. Identification. And thus, critical to your determination of the defendant as one of the persons that committed this crime. Despite some of the testimony that you heard, it is clear that the divorce between Wendi and Dan was contentious. Except the person who cared most about Wendi's divorce, and relocation specifically, wasn't Wendi. It was her mother. Charlie Adelson solicited Kathryn McBanola to kill Dan Markel, but why? Who solicited Charlie? Because Charlie didn't care about the Adelson family getting a win against Dan Markel. He didn't care about relocation. He didn't care about Wendi's divorce. He cared about go-karts and jet skis and pretty girls. But he also cared about getting things done for the number one woman in his life, and that was his mother. She managed Charlie's life for him, and in return, he solved problems for her. That pattern is seen throughout this case. He talks to Wendi on the defendant's behalf to get her to pull the plug on the Tallahassee house, to date Dave and invite him to Mother's Day, to pursue a medical malpractice job, even though that's not even her area of the law. And on and on and on. She micromanaged Wendi's life. Charlie knows how to manage Wendi in a way that Donna can't, or knows how to talk to her in a way that Donna can't. And Wendi needs their help, right? Because according to them, she doesn't even have enough of a brain in her head to run her own life without their help. Donna decides what's best for everyone, and if she runs into any problems making that happen, Charlie is her go-to guy to get it done. He is the problem solver. And what was the biggest problem that Donna Adelson had in 2014? Dan Markel. Wendi filed her petition for divorce on September 10th of 2012, and the defendant was right in the middle of it. In the fall of 2012, the defendant told her son, Rob Adelson, that she had been in Tallahassee for several months, renting a new place for Wendi. She used her own maiden name to do that, to disguise the identity of who was renting it, arranging for movers, moving money around, and getting things set up for Wendi to leave Dan. Then Wendi calls Dan Markel and delivers the news that she's leaving him. How does she do it? She tells him she and the boys are moving out of the marital home, and the defendant gleefully, that was Rob's word, reported to Rob, her son, that she and Wendi strategically planned to deliver that news to Mr. Markel so that he would get this bomb dropped on him right as he's about to take the stage to deliver this lecture. According to Mr. Markel in one of his filings, quote, while the husband was away on a short business trip, the wife left the husband in the marital home, taking with her the children's furniture, clothing, toys, and whatever assets, both marital and non-marital, she desired. The evidence has shown that from the start, this defendant was very involved in managing Wendi's divorce. In October of 2012, defendant writes an email entitled, Things to Discuss at Your Mediation to Make Sure You Have in Writing for a Settlement, in which she refers to Wendi as a hostage and a prisoner in Tallahassee. That's what she believed. The email also includes the suggestion that Wendi pursue a restraining order against Dan Markel, that Wendi should go for 100% full custody of those two kids and relocation, and the threat of this conversion to Christianity. Quote, if he leaves you in Tallahassee, the children will not be attending Hebrew day school. That's not a threat, just a warning. A warning that her friend, Ms. Cunningham, on the stand dismissed. Oh, that was just a foolish thing to say, right? But the characterization of these threats as, just something that was a one-off heat of passion thing has been completely destroyed by the evidence in this case. Because she repeats it. She plans it with a lot of specificity. Wendi even admitted that her mom was serious about planning a baptism for these kids to change their religion as a ruse to try to strong-arm Dan Markel into giving up those kids. This is an example of the defendant operating with the emotional subterfuge as described by her daughter, Wendi Adelson. Also remember how her son Rob described her. She has rigid and fixed ideas of what she wants. And as long as you comply, things are fine. But when you don't comply, things are not fine.
So immediately we know that that their theory is based upon the divorce, primarily impacting when Donna. They're basically making good with that theory now that the divorce had basically impacted Donna, and the way. Everything from the communications that has been presented, it seems like there would be a minimal case without that being a central focal point, because that's the main hook to actually bring Donna in, because she was very invested in that particular divorce. And I liked how they approached this. You may have missed it, in my opinion, but
lawyer's desk.
He
was a real person who cared passionately about every scrap of paper in that divorce file. He wasn't some bumbling idiot. He was a Harvard-educated law professor. And yeah, he was making it as difficult as possible for this defendant to get her non-negotiable, which just also happened to be Dan Markel's non-negotiable, those two little boys. You have learned about this conspiracy and how it has unraveled over the last 11 years since Dan Markel's death. The defendants in this case have all attempted.
I was at this point. Some of you may have missed this, but I was very shocked to basically see that, and I had to run it back in case you guys did miss it. But she used a Spider-Man meme to basically illustrate the point that the conspiracy is basically all of the people involved are pointing the fingers at each other, saying no, it was Kathryn. Kathryn says no, it was the hitman. The hitman says no, it was Charlie. All of those. So the hitman says, sorry, not the hitman says Kathryn. The Kathryn says it was Charlie that that was doing it, that she wasn't involved, etc. in the trial. So we went through all of that, and the state were also highlighting probably the most sarcastic way on the innocent, sweet grandmother that has never done anything wrong, and they were also highlighting the emails that she was sending to Dan Markel. Well, I'm not sending to Dan Markel. Sorry about that. That she was sending to Wendi Adelson in regards to Dan Markel's, calling him names, saying that he is stupid, and all of those things. She also highlights that Dan noted to the court that Wendy comes from an affluent family and is going to keep the litigation going, and most of her filings were baseless. So with this highlight, it kind of sends the jury the idea that it is very possible that this family can actually afford to go through and get a hitman to get their way, because they were already drowning him in litigation. She also highlighted that the control that Donna had in the proceedings by showing the plan of action email. Remember that email that Donna had sent to Wendi to basically pass on and do these things to make sure that she wins. So that plan of action, encouraging her to not give up and saying that divorcing is a must win for her. She highlighted this to say that Donna was domineering. She also sprinkled in a little bit of that, if you can remember from Wendi Adelson's direct examination. She was asked in regards to Donna Adelson setting her up on a dating profile that she created, the dating profile for her on Match.com, and saying that that I screened this man out for you. She basically highlighted that in tandem with the controlling narrative. She also went through the timeline in connection of Donna instructing Wendi to not buy a house on the 31st of October 2013, and I thought that this was very interesting for a lot of reasons. I'm gonna try and find the most accurate timestamp. Should be 217, so it should be around here. Hopefully it's here. Hopefully I've got the right timestamp. No, I've gone too far. Damn, I don't think so.
And according to Rob, there were no birthday gifts for Harvey, unless the murder was supposed to be the birthday gift. Plus, in the text, Donna wants Charlie to delete after reading the text that doesn't mention the birthday. She doesn't say anything about deleting the one that...
That's the birthday they're talking about. I'm trying to find... Okay, so that's the email that they're talking about. I'm trying to... That's the email that I was referencing to earlier. Bring up all the things that Donna had called Charlie, narcissist, all those things, and I believe this is the part where Wendi was gonna buy a house. This is where I was referring to. Let's watch.
Putting it onto Charlie is seen over and over again. Which brings us to Halloween 2013. Several important events in the case occur on Halloween 2013. One, Wendi officially takes Dan Markel back to court, filing her motion to enforce the marital settlement agreement. So she's alleging he violated it, and she's asking to hold him in contempt of court, alleging that he's not paid the agreed upon fees that he was supposed to pay by a certain deadline. Wendi backs out of the contract that she had signed to buy a house in Tallahassee on Halloween 2013. Charlie later brags to the defendant that he talked Wendi out of buying the house, and the defendant calls him a miracle worker for having convinced Wendi not to buy the house in Tallahassee. Also, Charlie meets up with Kathryn Magbanowa on Lincoln Road on Halloween 2013, the same day Wendi pulled the plug on the house. And broaches the subject with her for the first time of, hey, do you know anybody that I could hire to harm someone? And she did. Charlie sends this picture of himself and Kathryn Magbanua together to Wendi that night, October 31st, 2013. First night he solicited Kathryn Magbanua to be a part of a murder, or a part of what would become a murder. Mid-November, Jeff Lacoste meets the defendant for the first time. Remember Jeff? He was Wendy's boyfriend that testified. He said,
So I thought that I wanted to highlight the Halloween part because it coincides a lot with the, like, I was very surprised because I will admit I probably missed this during the evidence, the presentation of evidence by the state. I probably missed it, but I didn't know that Wendi was apparently buying a house at that point when when Charlie was with Kathryn Magbanua at the club at Liberty, so basically a nightclub in Miami that they had met at Halloween, and he was asking her in regards to knowing men that they were dangerous. Apparently, also very important, Charlie and Kathryn were dating around this period as well, so they were pretty familiar. So with her highlighting that and coinciding it with the fact that Wendi, had somehow withdrew from purchasing the house, very interesting, because you would do that. It's changing to because she was from what? Let me go back again.
Charlie sends this picture of him and broaches the subject with her for the first time in Tallahassee.
Okay. So she says he spoke to Wendi for 20 minutes last night. She texted me today. She pulled out a plug on buying the house, and then she was happy. She being Donna was happy in regards to that. Apparently, before she had done all that, Charlie had sent her the picture in regards to Kathryn Magbanua. She was going to buy a house in Tallahassee to basically live because of the relocation falling through. This is Halloween 2013. The relocation already fell through in July. So that's the theory that they're working with. And it's a theory. It's a theory, but it's a good one. It's a good one.
Miracle worker, perhaps.
So she went through more emails and messages by Donna where she had said that the divorce was basically drama and that Wendi should tread lightly not to cause any more drama. She was highlighting these emails these emails were basically on February 14th, where she and then all of a sudden she then says aggravate Dan. So my understanding of this was they were of course saying this to kind of show, and I think she even illustrated it. She even said it in the closing argument. It was to show how contentious the divorce was. I'm not gonna play all of the closing arguments, just the key parts from the closing arguments, and also the key parts that I've noted down that you should know. But anyway, continuing on, she also highlights that the dinner that Kathryn Magbanua, Jeff Lacasse, Charlie Adelson had where Jeff had known Kathryn, and also Kathryn was mentioning that her boyfriends had a criminal history. She made note of that to basically say that at this point, when Jeff had already met them in 2014, this was early 2014 when they had met them for dinner, and Jeff and Wendi were officially dating. That's when we got to learn that that Kathryn had dangerous boyfriends while she was dating Charlie. She also highlights our channel, welcome to the stream. I appreciate you for joining. Trial channel says, I am just finishing off the last listening as I finish off the last video. Yeah, you are doing the Lord's work, if I'm being honest with you. The trial channel has all of the clips, well, the full footage. I'm not gonna call them clips, but she does edit it so that so that she removes all of the sidebars, the cuts, the breaks, all of those things. She removes it so that you guys can catch up a bit easier without having to listen to the proceedings. It's a really good resource, and so if you want to catch up on this as well, without having to manually, go through each timestamp or on the main trial channels, or you just want to hear certain witness testimonies, their full testimony will be up on that channel. So make sure you go check out the trial channel. Welcome to the stream. Always a pleasure to have you on, to see you on here and engaging in the chat. I appreciate you. So she also went through the timeline pertaining to the timeline leading up to Dan Markel's death. Well, the murder of Dan Markel, I should say. And she was highlighting the message that Wendi had sent to Dan, asking if he will be in town for the days of 14th to 18th of July 2024 and 2014. Sorry, and she was showing how this coincides with the murder. She didn't really highlight that they already had a schedule, but we know that a schedule was already established for Wendi to know. She reminded jury also of Wendi telling Jeff that Charlie had actually said that he was going to hire a hitman to take care of Dan. So she went through all the interactions post-murder, after the murder, highlighting the money exchange, the message to Charlie by Donna being outside of the house, the call to Rob Adelson saying that he should not speak to the FBI, and he doesn't know anything anyway after he said that he had already spoken to the FBI. And so she also highlighted that Donna had washed the money for Charlie, bring in the text messages of it, and informing the jury that Harvey and Charlie had signing authority over the checks, but she is the one that ended up signing it. And I thought that this was a very good point to highlight, because if it was somebody else signing it, they will be culpable. So if it was Charlie signing it, they'll be culpable. However, and this is where I do criticize the closing. The closing. I know that they have to highlight this, but I know that they have to highlight Donna's involvement. But I still think it's an own goal to highlight that other people could have signed it, because now you give, depending on how the defense approach it, they could easily argue, well, she could be set up. She could be being set up by Charlie himself, because he's the one that ordered the hit. He's the one that does all this, and then finds out that he is being investigated by the undercover agent. So he's gonna, of course he's gonna have the mother do it to protect his rear end in case anything goes wrong. He wouldn't do it himself. He wouldn't put his dad in it, because that's his dad's business. And he maybe may not put his dad in it because he knows that Sigfredo Garcia had called the dad. There's so many ways to look at it, but I think there's an opening. Maybe I'm coping a little bit. Again, it's not like I'm not free on a campaign or anything like that. I just like to analyze these things in way ways it could go, and I just think that this argument opens up a bit for the defense, which we are going to go on later. She also highlighted that her reactions to the bump was nothing of ordinary people, and played the wiretaps where she was, where she does involve, where she says that it involves me or other people, and Donna. Apologies, let me start again. So she played the wiretaps where Charlie had said, "Does it involve me or other people?" And Donna had replied to him saying that it involves both of us. And I'm gonna go and try and find that timestamp, because again, the court is still going on. I didn't even know that the jury deliberations in the state of Florida can take up to, it can go beyond 6 p.m. Like, I thought court closes at 5. I thought that's it, business done and that's it. But no, this one, it can go. They stay on. I just found out that they can stay on for as long as the judge desires. So the jury might be there until 1 a.m., 12 a.m., 11 p.m. Who knows? And that's Eastern time, of course, not UK time. But if if they do find a jury, I guess this will become a verdict watch or something like that. But it's not intending to be a verdict watch. I just want to put it like that. But I don't think I'm gonna find the timestamp where the wiretap was played. Okay, should be around here.
I previously mentioned to Magbanoa the $1 million offer that his family was going to give Dan Markel, and from that she did for him to say
that's
he
not
was
it.
funneling through.
That's not it. Sorry about this. Let me try and find. Okay, that's not it. Definitely not messages though, of course. To be honest, I've never seen it. The only trial I've seen go beyond is Florida as well, Georgia. It was the Georgia case of I forgot her name, but it's a woman. I just forgot her name. I blanked out. But that case went on until like 11 o'clock my time, so 6 p.m. It does happen. But I apologize for this. But the wiretaps, if we could remember, in regards to the wiretaps, she highlighted, does it involve me, where Charlie said, does it involve me or other people, and Donna replies to Charlie saying it involves both of us. And I thought that this was a great point to highlight, and what could have really helped Donna in this situation is if they just, in my opinion, when I listen to this, yes, it's incriminating where she says it involves both of us. You can argue that away a little bit to say, when it says it involves both of us, you could say, oh, it's you could say that she was saying it involves both of us because we both know Kathryn McBanwell. You kind of have to fess up to the fact that you do know her. So it involves both of you because he mentioned Katie. So you can put it up like that, but she would have to fess up to knowing who Katie is. We haven't heard testimony in regards to who she knows or the relationship, so that's up in the air. But this one is really damning. But even though that's the case, the next point that Georgia Cappleman goes on to make is that they didn't call the police. They didn't call any of those people. She called, all she did was basically call Charlie Adelson. So the first thing that came into my mind was, okay, but you just said earlier that they were rich. You just said earlier that they were rich. They were affluent people. So I thought the only mistake that Donna made in this whole situation is the fact that they had all this going on and they didn't try to hire private security. As affluent people, you would think at this point, okay, get private security so that you can protect yourself from this hitman. You don't have to go to the police if you feel like maybe some industry secret, maybe something might fall out. Because I have to be fair, because some people react to things in a different way. Halana, welcome. Hi, how are you doing? Former expert Shannon B. I appreciate you for joining. Welcome. They are rich. You don't always have to go to police, because a lot of the issues that goes on in that kind of world, I'm not in that world. I don't know how it works. But a lot of them like to keep things away from law enforcement and generally try to enforce it themselves. They have their own communities, their own police, their own way of doing things. If I could put it like that eloquently. So the one thing that came into my mind was a trial that I covered, the Tory Lanez trial, the Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion trial, where Tory Lanez was facing criminal charges for shooting Megan Thee Stallion, Megan P, who's a well-known rapper. Really rich people. They have success, not as rich as the Adelsons, but rich enough. And I remember I interviewed one of the journalists that normally covers hip hop news, and he knows all about that lifestyle. So I asked him a question in regards to why the security guard was not called in to testify. And he gave me an insight that I thought it can be material here. Let's go and listen to that really quickly, because
well, what is it? Megan's security guard didn't testify, as well.
Yeah,
and
right.
I mean, at least I would think Megan's bodyguard come and testify as well, because that's your client. But
I think that whole nature of security tries to be I don't think like security companies, I'm not sure who their security company is, right? But generally when you're dealing with artists at that level, they go through a major, security company that deals with high profile clients on a regular basis, right?
Yeah.
Those people are not trying to be on TV. They're not trying to be going viral. Like that's part of protecting your client is like remaining as a company that's not going to be telling everything your clients did or didn't do, or telling other clients So I'm not surprised by that. I'm not saying that's what it is, but that's what it looks like to me.
Do you
okay? So of course he has disclaimed that he doesn't have like that inside knowledge, but it's an interesting point that he brought up in that interview, and the reason why I highlight it to be an interesting point is, if they had hired their own security, they would have at least had some form of protection, in my opinion. They could have argued, no, their security was handling it. There was no need to go to the police. It would have taken away. They don't even like the state would have had to then call in, if they could call in the security company to come in and testify to whatever may have been handling, how they have been handling it. That's one side, but the overarching point I'm trying to make is, if they made that move to at least get extra security on them, that would look a lot better and a lot more convincing that they really believed that their life was in danger, rather than, we need to cover our tracks because because what we did 2 years ago is now starting to catch us up because someone wants our money. If you get where I'm coming from. But anyway, they had a break after this because the defense objected to a couple of things. Before I move on, let me continue. Let me read this. The main problem in this case is proving Donna conspired before the murder and knew all that was planned. I agree with you. And I think that's where the defense has a lot of leverage and a lot of room to wiggle. But maybe that's why they didn't call the jailhouse informants, because they felt like that's not really important because that's after the murder. So looking at the evidence for what it is, I do have to agree with Alana, because there is no actual direct evidence, only the money given. commissioned after the murder. So you have to question, how are the jury going to interpret those instructions that does say if the person has the money, then they can be considered as a principal if the person does pay the money for the hit. At the same time, the solicitation, the lesson included, it does say that they have to solicit. So if they don't clear that principal first degree murder, they're not going to clear the lessons. I don't think so. I don't think, just based on the wording of what the judge had basically said on his jury instructions, they are not going to clear the lesser, because there's just no evidence that she actually solicited any of this. Charlie did all that. Charlie approached Kathryn McBanoa. The only thing that Wendi knows in regards to anything to do with the whole hit is you can only put her in at the mansion. That's it. Sorry, at Charlie's residence. That's it. The day of the Halloween, where Charlie was getting Kathryn McBanoa to find someone to harm someone, the only message that they have from Donna is Charlie saying Wendi has pulled out buying the house. That's it. There's no meeting of, I've talked to Kathryn as well. Nothing of the sort. So I do have to agree with Alana here. I do have to agree. So I may have missed this information as well. I need you to, in summary, tell me what the birthday present is. I hate to admit that, because I hate to make mistakes. I hate to forget. I hate to miss things. But maybe I don't know. I have heard the birthday present to Harvey Adelson. Maybe I don't know the significance of it, so maybe I didn't put that much weight in. So let me know, trial channel, what you think in regards to that birthday present's inference. But anyway, continuing on, she also highlighted, she being Georgia Cappleman, also highlighted that Donna, she also highlighted that Donna highlighted to Charlie that it was an ex-girlfriend, that it was an ex-girlfriend that the undercover agent had told him rather than Katie, because we know that the undercover agent said Katie, but Donna said it was an ex-girlfriend. So of course this means that this is how she was explaining that this was the code word, that Charlie and Donna were using to communicate, to know of the identity of Kathryn McBanoa, who commissioned the hitting, or hired the hit. And Charlie calls Kathryn, and only Kathryn. That's what the state highlighted, and she also focused on Charlie's defense in court for his trial, where he had said Kathryn was extorting him. So let me try, and I don't think I'm gonna have much luck in locating that footage. I don't think I'm gonna have much luck. Let me try and see.
Stupid, and he wanted to take it up and address it with the judge if necessary. Is that true?
That's not it. All right, I'm not gonna find it. But anyway, to me, when she gave this evidence, this is where I actually feel, like I said before in the previous stream, this is where I felt that Charlie was lying to Donna in regards to what Kathryn had done, to what Kathryn had done, because Charlie was paying Kathryn. Charlie was paying Garcia as well, and doing all of these things in the wiretap. But when it came down to it on the 30th, Charlie was opening conversations with Donna saying, go ahead and pay the hitman $10K. And then on the 5th, we know what happened. She didn't end up doing that. So there was another room there for the defense to argue. It was like saying, okay, but Charlie offered to go and pay, and she still said, no, I'm not going to pay that. So, of course, this is why I think that maybe Charlie was the one that was lying to Donna. And maybe Charlie, in all of this, I told Donna, look, I'm being extorted. I need your help. It could be. It really could be. I'm being extorted. He didn't say by who. He just said, I'm being extorted. I need this money. And then Donna pays. It might not even have to be extortion. She loves the kids, so she'll give them money for whatever they want. And then later on, it reveals, oh, this is the guy that I was telling you about regarding the extortion. Remember that extortion I told you about 2 years ago? We don't know. The reason why I'm bringing up these kind of scenarios is because the only person that was speaking with, in my opinion, with anybody encryptedly was Charlie and Kathryn. There was no encryption messages between Charlie and Donna. That's it just, when I look at things like that, it just seems to me that I mean, this is why I believe, okay, she may have blurted to the jailhouse snitches that something has happened, but at the same time, context is missing, because at the end of the day, she seems really gullible. If she did speak to the jailhouse, because you guys know I don't take stock in anything that they say, but if she did speak to him, I would say that it kind of makes sense with the whole evidence presented, that it would be quite easy for Charlie to manipulate her, or at least lie to her, not manipulate, but let's just say lie to her to protect himself. Because anyway, let me move on. She also highlighted that Donna had recorded the call with the blackmailer, but never recorded being extorted by Kathryn. And though I thought that this was a good point, though I thought that this was a good point to highlight, is how could she extort Charlie or Kathryn if she's never spoken with her? Like, there's no proof of speaking with her. So I don't know. Like, she also went on to show Charlie's interactions in trying to handle the blackmailer. She highlights that everyone was trying to reassure the co-conspirator, which was in this case Donna, that they are handling it, and also highlighted that Donna and Charlie were theorizing how Dan could have died in 2016, despite knowing that they were extorted, and says that they only made this defense in Charlie's trial. She also highlighted that the text from Donna to Wendi saying, "You know I'm next, I will take care of that," and urged the jury to keep that in mind, as it shows her state of mind when planning to travel to Vietnam. She also highlighted that she had cancelled her insurance plan and also planned to stop over in another non-extradition country, which we know to be Dubai. And I honestly, if I'm being honest, I'm gonna give my closing thoughts on the closing arguments, but I'm gonna move over to the defense, and I'm gonna show you how they started their defense in comparison. I think Jackie Fulford had to even take a bathroom break twice, so she had to take a break during her defense. But yeah, let me go to her defense, to the closing arguments for the defense. Alana says they all have a history of lying, toss a coin on who's telling the truth at any given time. I have no idea. Like, I haven't. I'll give my thoughts in the end. Let's continue.
You've heard a lot, but I hope you'll stay awake so you can hear me too, okay? So, it's been what, 2.5 weeks, I guess, since you started this venture with us, and you've heard an awful lot. And I'd like to take you back to my opening statement. In my opening statement, there were some things referred to today that I'd like to address. The first one is that I stood up in my opening statement and said all of these wonderful things about Dan Markel, and then I called witnesses to attack him. That is not true. That is not true. In fact, the defense is the only part of this case that actually elicited evidence through testimony about the good qualities of Dan Markel. We elicited that on cross from his ex-wife, Wendi. And all of the things I told you in opening about what a wonderful man he was, a wonderful father, well-educated, successful, we elicited that testimony. And criticized today for having 2 witnesses who came and testified on the stand about the dissolution case and things that had been filed in it. That was not to attack Danny Markel. We didn't put that evidence on. The state is the one that made it an issue. They put those documents into evidence, the things that Mr. Markel had filed. So we're the defense, and we represent Donna Adelson, and we're just supposed to say, okay, well, they put it in, let's just let it sit there. We have an obligation to represent our client, and what happened in that divorce, whether it was contentious or not, was an issue the state brought up. They've been calling this a bitter custody battle for years, and they started this case by saying the same thing. So to have the people who were actually involved in the case point out that there never was a bitter custody battle is important, because there never was one. There was never a time when they were fighting over somebody having access to the children. In those pleadings, nobody says, you can't have them, I've got them. You can't have them, I've got them. When they filed their initial pleadings, they did what everybody, according to the lawyer who was on the case for Mrs. Adelson, meaning Wendi, on the case for Wendi, they all filed their typical pleadings. And in the beginning, you asked for certain stuff, and she asked for 5149, maybe for a tax purpose. But there was never one single time, and you can't be convinced that relocation was the issue where they were going to take Danny Markel's kids away from them. If you believe that, you are ignoring the evidence that the state of Florida put on against Donna Adelson. And when I told you in opening that this was all about theory and belief of what a motive was, and there was no evidence that a crime was committed by my client, Donna Adelson, that is exactly what has happened in this courtroom. The state is ignoring the evidence that came in through their witnesses that support our defense, and instead they stand before you with calls and text messages, and they tell you what they mean. That's not evidence. Their argument about what a conversation means is not evidence. You decide what it means. You've got it in front of you, and you have to consider it in the context of all of the evidence that's presented. Not just what the state puts in, but what the defense puts in. And I know at some point when we were putting on evidence, you all were looking probably at me like, what are you doing? Who cares? Some of those little things matter, and I'm going to cover those in the defense, and you'll see why we put those things in that didn't seem like that I had a hoot to do with anything, because they actually did.
I'll give it to Jackie. I'm not gonna lie. I will give Trent Briggs. Welcome back, Trent. Trent says Donna's lawyers did a decent job with the closing. I have to agree with this. I have to. I do think Sarah started off with a bang. I do believe, not Sarah. I call her Sarah again. Georgia. Maybe I like Sarah. Who knows? Georgia started off with a bang. With a Spider-Man meme. All of those things. But I felt she just went on way too long, in my opinion. I'm going to go through it all in depth, but to the point, I'm going to go through all when I finish the opening statements and what I think of the whole thing. But yeah, I do believe that the performance of the defense lawyers with the closing, in my opinion, was a lot better including the rebuttal, it was a lot better than the state's closing.
Now, I think the state, near the beginning of the case, and I don't recall who the witness was, but near the beginning of the case, the state, through a law enforcement officer, elicited testimony about how this event transpired, this brutal killing of Danny Markel, how it transpired, and how they were able to break the case. And what did they tell you? They told you they broke the case because Luis Rivera, who was one of the killers, decided he would cooperate with the state of Florida in exchange for a deal, which for his crime, he ended up, the testimony was, he got 7 more years for committing that crime. This is the man who got in the car, got the gun off the street, drove up to Tallahassee, Florida, stalked, is the best way I can describe it, Danny Markel in a car with his children from his home, watched him take his little boys out of his car and put them into the daycare center, followed him again to where he went to work out at Premier Gym, and sat in wait for him. Sat in wait for him. And then when Mr. Markel came out, trying to work some things out with his ex-wife Wendi about having the kids and who's picking them up at what time, even leaves her a really nice voicemail that they could get together and walk at the school to talk about the education of their older child, where he was going to be going to school because he was going to be starting kindergarten. And Wendi pushed back. You know, she pushed back. This was his time with his little boys, and she's telling him no. You know, I've got plans. Well, it wasn't her time to do that. So leading up to his death, she's arguing with him over about an hour and a half worth of time that she thinks she's entitled to with the kids, but it's his time. And I agree with the state of Florida. The most important thing to that man was those little boys. And he fought for every minute he could get, and rightfully so. Then he drives home in his car while he's on the phone, and Luis Rivera, driving the car that's been stalking him all day, pulls up behind him in his driveway. Sigfredo Garcia gets out and shoots him twice in the head, and they pull off at a pretty high rate of speed and leave Danny Markel dying inside his garage.
I like how she approached this, because what she's done there is just highlight everyone that's actually involved in the killing and all of that. Doesn't mention Donna at all. No mention of Donna whatsoever. She went on to also highlight that Kathryn is not honest, and she had lied in court. And she has also highlighted where she had lied in court and basically said that Kathryn had said that no, I need to find, let me find it. Let me try and find it.
Let me tell you when he got on the stand.
Hold on.
Where are my numbers? That elicited Sigfredo Garcia to kill Danny Markel. Now her versions change over time, so we'll have to address it.
Yeah, this is it. So, Kathryn, this is her saying, highlighting the parts where she lied on the stand.
Testified to you on this document dated March 11th, 2025, when he was deposed, and those numbers and circles are his. And he testified to you that, where are my numbers? That Kathryn Magbanawa, that's right. Kathryn Magbanawa is the person that elicited Sigfredo Garcia to kill Danny Markel. Now her versions change over time, so we'll have to address a few of those. And then she says she didn't even know Luis Rivera was involved. This is a woman who the state has admitted lied first time, second time, third time, fourth time, maybe the fifth time. Every time she puts herself under oath and swears to tell the truth, she's going to say more. She told you she didn't even know Luis Rivera was involved, but the phone records that were put in by the state of Florida prove otherwise. Because during the time that they're traveling to Tallahassee, when she can't reach Sigfredo Garcia, whose phone is she calling? She's calling Luis Rivera. This woman can't tell the truth.
This was what I was trying to articulate when we were going through on day 3, when Kathryn Magbanawa was was giving testimony, something fell off, and I'm glad that she brought this up, because I was like, wait a second, that doesn't sound accurate, because why are you saying that you didn't? Well, she was arguing more on the money, saying that she didn't think that it would be Sigfredo and Louis carrying out the hit, but yet she was getting the money to pay the people carrying out the hit. So things like, it's a good point to highlight, and because end of the day, the reason why she's highlighting this is because they have implicated Donna to be the one to have put the money for Charlie to give to Kathryn. But now Kathryn is apparently telling the truth in all of this, and yet for some reason she is saying that this money, that she didn't actually think that Sigfredo Garcia was going to take out the hit. It just gives to me, because Sigfredo, I'm not too sure about this. I did know that he was guilty. He was convicted in 2022. So I don't know if he's facing the death penalty. I don't know if he's actually facing the death penalty. So maybe she's giving this testimony again in the hopes that if this trial goes one way, that they can use her evidence that Sigfredo was not the one that was supposed to do it. I don't know. I always felt that testimony was odd. And her bringing it up it makes perfect sense, because end of the day, the communications show that she was in contact with Garcia at the wiretap, and also in contact with Garcia on the day of the murder, sorting it all out. So that's just, so I thought the defense scored a couple of points there. She also highlighted the I thought that this part was funny. Let me try and find it. Because the timestamps, like I said, are messed up. Let me try and find it. But I thought that Donna is really funny for actually going to highlight this. 1 second, let me try and get it up. No, can I get it up? That's what she said. Yeah, this part here. Got it. Let's start with this part.
That my client called Danny Markel during the course of a divorce where her daughter is constantly venting to her about what she says Danny is doing. She said some really bad names, and I'm going to say them, although you shouldn't say bad words in court. She called him some ugly stuff. The first one that they wanted to put in was from 2011. He was killed in 2014. They introduced this email from March the 28th of 2011 at 64A, and inside that email, they claim, shows the hatred for Danny Markel. And you want to know why? According to their exhibit list here, because Mrs. Adelson referred to Danny's parents as, quote, the royal couple. And she and Wendi were bantering back and forth about some issues with Mr. Markel's parents. That's not hatred on Danny. It's not even hatred on his parents. We're sitting here with murder charges because she did something like that, called somebody a royal couple. She said other bad things. She called Danny a major fucker, Jibbers, which Wendi Adelson testified that she came up with that nickname for him, a religious zealot, and Wendi testified that the issues in their marriage included matters of he had now become more strict in their religion than she wanted to follow. That was one of their problems. She called him a royal jackass, a piece of shit, a fucker, crazy, a bastard, and she called him Elvis. That's why we are sitting here today.
And I thought, honestly, it was very bold. It was very bold to go to this point, but I didn't think that she would thread this. I didn't think that she would go through it this smoothly because in my opinion, when she went to this, I was like, okay, how are you going to approach this? But she did make a good point by saying, if that's all you have, bad words, all those things, you don't have any emails to say, and I They didn't highlight this, but they don't have any emails to commission the killing, any emails to say I want Dan dead in some way or fashion. Not even the major inference of emails saying I'll make sure that you win by any means necessary. If she says something like that, game over. In my opinion, that inference of any means necessary, or, you know, it's enough. But you still don't have that. All you have is don't give up. Anyone would say don't give up. Like, especially if you are, especially in a contentious divorce. And this is where, like I said yesterday, this is where I feel like the expert should have conceded, because why would Donna say to her daughter don't give up if it wasn't contentious and unemotional and it didn't affect people? You know, this is where I felt that the expert should have copped to that, at least yesterday, because Adelson clearly understood and clearly was making giving evidence to say, yeah, it had its moments of being contentious, but it was generally solved. That was Adamson's main overarching point from yesterday's testimony. So things like that, like, that's the best that they have. The best that they actually have is the plan of action and don't give up. And you don't have emails of that. And I thought the way that she approached this to basically highlight that what they have actually shown you are just insults. Insults don't mean murder. At least that's what I got from the closing here.
That is hatred for somebody.
She also highlighted the Evite, saying that both Wendi Adelson and Christopher Corbett had said that Donna had no idea how to work the Evite, and it will be absurd to think that deleting an Evite is proof that murder occurred. And again, the only dispute I have is I can't remember Christopher Corbett saying that Donna did not know how to work it. I only remember Wendi saying that. So that's the only part I have. But the one part that I thought was a bit strange, was a bit ballsy, is highlighting Rob Adelson, because I thought he came across as a very likable and credible witness, and basically saying that Rob was estranged from the family, and saying that he had an axe to grind and not credible. And I thought, you sure you want to do that? I mean, if we remember from Rob's testimony, he was basically saying that I just forgot it again. Damn it! Apart from the FBI call, there was something that he said. Damn, I just forgot it again. Never mind. I will, when I go through my keynotes in the recaps, maybe it'll come back to me. She also highlights how in the mediation Donna had communicated to Wendi, saying that she should negotiate with Dan, take the kids, and says, and I thought that this was a really good point. Let me try and find the timestamp for this. Where are we? So we are now on the 10th hour. So let me see. I've got 5. So 5:48 would be around here. Yeah, this is it. Okay, this is it.
Relocate back to Miami. This man, they were considering giving him $1 million to relocate, because he had already lived in Miami with Wendi. Relocate back to Miami. He taught, according to Wendi, 2 days a week. He could commute by airplane. They were willing to pay for plane tickets, give him money to buy a house, expose his children to a more strict Jewish environment where they had Jewish schools and all kinds of activities, and be around more kids, kosher like Danny. Relocation was never about taking those kids away from him. It was, how can we make it happen? You can live in the same city, we can co-parent separately, but be together, be around each other, and all have family support. Shame on them for wanting to help him like that. They act like they were doing something illegal. That's not illegal. You heard the woman testify. It happens a lot in divorces. People offer money to get certain things that they want, or they concede something they're entitled to. But if Mrs. Adelson does it, she must be up to no good. This grandmother motion, I want to point.
Okay, so before she goes on into the grandmother motion, and I thought that this was a smart way to go into the plan of action. I thought that was a smart way to actually attack that, because in the whole, all of those things, she's actually encouraging them to negotiate. You wouldn't do that if you really want to win as the defense. Honestly, this, as the prosecution had tried to paint, honestly, this was a really good closing.
Sorry, I can't do technology. Somebody has to help me. Where she's giving her daughter, and these are emails,
Right.
where she's giving her daughter advice on what she should do, preparing for mediation. Oh, how terrible of her. But what they didn't want you to see in this email, do you see that highlighted part? If she thinks she's going to have him killed, why is she telling her daughter in mediation, make sure in the final order that he has to pay half of this expense and half of that expense, and extracurricular activities and tennis lesson and baseball teams and travel? Well, who cares if they're going to kill him? Why is she writing that? Negotiate.
And I thought that this was the best point. I thought, literally, I'll give it to the defense for bringing up all these things that just seems to a normal human being is just not plausible. That, and you have to look at the time. I wish, the only critique that I have is that they didn't highlight the dates and times of this to really attack the idea, because the prosecution theory is actually hinging on 31st of October 2013. When was this mediation made? When was this settlement actually made? Because if this was actually things to discuss at mediation, it does seem like March. It does seem like the March hearing. Remember that March hearing? They had a March hearing and they have a May hearing to sort out the extra allegations that Dan had made. So if this is in June, then the point falls flat. If this is in July, then the point falls flat, because from what I understand, they reached a settlement, they agreed, and then Dan had issues with the assets and then called bluff. So there were so many talks of mediation though. So this is what I'm trying to articulate. There was another mediation that was supposed to happen after the divorce had already been settled. So because of Dan Markel's allegations, they were actually supposed to mediate again and try and come again into sorting out all of these things, the payments, etc. That was my understanding. So if the defense had made it clear when this was, I would have loved it, because it would have at least removed that doubt. Well, create that doubt, sorry, in this case, create that doubt that how on earth would she be writing all this to get the settlements and do all those things if this was after October 31st, 2013. You know, food for thought. But that was, she also highlighted the grandma motion and goes through the details, saying that it doesn't mean that you're going to lose the kids, or that grandma was like, it was just allegations that Dana made, that Dana made. To be quite honest, I don't understand the grandma motion myself, but the way that she highlighted it, I mean, personally, I just like, I don't think it matters. Like this grandma motion thing, because, and I know that the states are using that to allege that this is what tipped Donna over the line, but yeah, I mean, let me actually, sorry, let's continue on. She highlights also that Donna had wanted Dan Markel to be murdered, yet is making plans to pick up the kids earlier, it does not seem like an alibi. So this is Wendi that she's talking about, because apparently they were trying to move to make the to pick up the kids at around 12, which she's now trying to say that that's what Wendi was going up to Dan Markel's house for, because they were actually planning to get the kids for 12. But I didn't see any messages that went through this, so I don't know if they're just throwing this in there. That does happen on closing arguments sometimes. Sometimes facts that are not in evidence are thrown in. So I didn't quite understand what she was actually going through here. But I do like how they brought in the police interview, that we didn't really see the footage of it, but it was brought into evidence for consideration. And I believe it was cut out what Donna had basically said about what Wendi had basically said about Donna. But the police interview was apparently at 7:11 p.m. on the 18th of July. So that's when Donna had actually found out that Dan Markel was dead. She also highlighted the inconsistency and unreliability of Jailbird, and she actually called her Jailbird Patricia Bird, saying that no one offered her anything, that she was never on Donna's witness list, despite saying that she was going to testify for her. And I thought that this was a great point. I thought that this was a great point to highlight, because you have these two jailbirds that were supposed to be testifying on your behalf, instructing you what to say, and some reason they're not on your witness list. I'm not saying that Donna didn't write that note. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. Donna wrote the note. It was her handwriting. The defense even copped up to it. I have always said, though, it could have been written under a different context, based on what the defense were bringing out to show the notebook, that Drina had before even speaking with Donna. We brought that out yesterday, and she already had those things ready. So you have to question the motive of what was going on. And again, it's just, I gotta put it out down to Donna as well. I don't feel bad for her. She just seems to me like a gullible old goof, because I don't understand how you are finding yourself in these situations with literal criminals. How are you writing for them what you want them to say? I have no idea how does that happen. But I do think there is context to that conversation. Maybe, just maybe, she was not even writing what she wants them to say. Maybe she was actually writing what Charlie was saying, what was going on in Charlie's proceedings. I don't know. We don't know. But I do think there was a greater context there. And I think that this is a great point to bring up, because why would you solicit somebody that isn't even on your witness list? Something to bring up. Yeah, Donna definitely, that's a very good point as well, Lana. That's a very, very good point. That's a very good point. Donna definitely wrote that note, but they aren't bringing with charges of witness tampering, so it's all irrelevant. That's a good point. They would have brought charges as well. That's a very good point. That's a very good point. So she highlighted. I love that this chat is smart. I love you guys. You guys always bring up some excellent points. Like, I love the back and forth. I love the fact that you guys bring your thinking caps. This is why I say tastemakers a lot. Like legit when I write in the community post, because like you guys literally, like, I always have good back and forth here in the trial is what I'm trying to say. She also highlighted that Donna was not speaking in code, and rather it was quite open in regards to the calls regarding cash. So okay, I think she was speaking in code. I mean, I don't think you can pretty much deny that. But at the same time, I mean, yeah, you have her saying TV for 5,000. That is code. I don't know how you can just go up there and just say that. Like, no, even if you believe Donna is innocent, you have to admit that is actually code. She was actually speaking in code. So I don't agree with the state for that. So I'm gonna go to the closing rebuttal. Nothing much. She just basically, Georgia Cappleman just basically said that the insults in the that the trial is not based on insults, and that is not insults for murder, is basically powder for sugar. And Donna was careful, but what the exhibits showed was that mistakes were made. She also mentions that the cash conversation. She also mentioned that the cash conversation between Charlie and Donna were that she had to pay for dinner. So, of course, dinner. She's trying to say that this means blackmail, but I did think that the defense brought up a good point to basically say that these are their interpretations. It's not what really happened. So what the jury might do is that they're going to listen to that wiretaps and come to their own conclusion. I think that might be the case. If they want to, they might disregard the Dolce Vita wiretap with Kathryn if they cannot hear it, but they are definitely going to listen to the wiretap between Kathryn, Garcia, Donna, and Charlie. I think they are going to deliberate on that. And she also highlighted that she wrote a perjurious note on how someone should testify for her, and also highlighted that she said in the calls to Charlie that it involves both of us. Let's listen to the ending of this closing argument.
Succeeded. She said it involved the two of us. That was before we got made, before that Matt Surrey operation where they literally see the camera in the bag and know the camera's in the bag. Yeah, she called and put on a great show when she called the undercover, but what did she say in the first call, the second call, and the third call before we got made, before she knew it was law enforcement? She said it involves the two of us, both of us.
Good point. Don't dispute
So
that.
these-
I've always said that's a good point. That's
Okay,
a
I wanna
great fact
hit
to
one
highlight.
more thing. Don't call time on me. 2 years after the murder, we've got two emails, 64T and 64I. So the problem is that she decides what other people need, what's necessary for other people in their lives, and she is willing to justify whatever ends she thinks are needed, right? Any means to get to those ends are justified in her mind. The problem is she doesn't care about the collateral damage to get to her ends. The evidence has shown that this defendant, I think, did believe that Wendi and those boys were better off in South Florida. She thought that's what they needed. They would be better off with her, and she was angry that that couldn't happen. Dan Markel is the thing standing in the way. What was the cost of that to not only Dan Markel, but to those little boys? Those little boys lost their father. Look what she says in 64T. Children are 2 and 3. Children do not even have a memory of life before age 5 or 6. Look what she says in 64II when Wendi is concerned. This is 2 years after the murder. Her child is having trouble at school, crying because he misses his father. And this woman, this nice grandmother, innocent woman, says, quote, "I still do not believe that Ben is sad about his father." Quotations on the sad. 64II. "I still do not believe that Ben is sad about his father. I spend a minimum of 25 hours a week with him, and oftentimes more than that, including weekend times and sleepover days, and have never experienced a time when he was sad. I think it's just another phase of the many, many phases that kids go through. The problem is they have a highly intelligent and sensitive mom. She doesn't believe that this kid is sad because she can't take accountability for her own actions and the catastrophic consequences that this had on everyone's life in her family. Not just her son, not just her daughter, not just Rob, not just Dan Markel, but those boys who lost their father. It wasn't better for them to be in South Florida. It was better for them to have their father. Verdict must be based on the evidence. Base your verdict on the feelings of sympathy, prejudice, bias. Your verdict must be based on the evidence and the law. Yes, she's a grandmother. Most murderers don't look like that. But the evidence has revealed what she is. Please don't let her appearance influence your verdict in any way. It involves the two of us. What about the script? They didn't even talk about the script. She wrote a script for a witness that's been proven the absence of their father. Signing power on that, the check, this thing, that's what it is. It's only truth. Can't all to see this evidence for what it is. It's only one thing. There's only one truth. It can't all be right. It's only one truth. Render a verdict that does justice. Find her guilty. Thank you.
Honestly, based on both closing arguments were underwhelming. I'm just gonna say it. Both closing arguments were underwhelming, but I do believe if we were to put it all together, Georgia, the way she approached this rebuttal, you can tell that in my opinion, Jackie had drew some blood. The way that she approached this was not like she did it in the start. But in the end, all she could do was just highlight, again, go through the evidence and there was nothing new that she could bring out. All we have, I don't think that the state has adequately shown. They have presented a compelling case, and I do believe that the $5,000 for TV, compelling. I do believe that the not just the TV, the highlight of the 31st of October, very compelling. But that's it. The paying for the money. Let's go through the timeline events because I want to get to that paying for the money thing. Let's go through the timeline events. Alana says Georgia's closing was underwhelming because they have not had a lot of evidence of premeditation. I agree. Trent, I will be so shocked jury is still deliberating. I'll be surprised. I will be surprised though if she's found not guilty. Yeah. As much as I'm trying to look at the law side, because the only reason why I'm saying this is because the first degree murder bar is very high. Like, looking at this Sheila Agee case, her mistake, I don't think she was actually premeditating to actually kill, but the principal role is clear. She had, before the murder, sent the location of the store to the son and also said, go kill her. Like, those two things. But when you read in context of the messages, you can see that she was also at the same time saying, you are your own man, like, you're making a mistake, but I'm not gonna stop you, but you're making a mistake. Don't throw your life away for this woman. I think that's what she was saying in the messages leading up to her sending the actual messages, the actual location of the store to the son to go and kill I forgot the victim's name, unfortunately. But before that happened, Brooklyn, I think her name is Brooklyn. But those messages, verdict alert, oh my gosh, okay, so this has turned to a verdict stream. So, oh gosh. I don't like this. Guys, I don't like this, man. Don't want this. I didn't want this to be the case. Okay, it's turned to a verdict watch stream. It's turned to a verdict watch stream. We'll go through the timeline of events later on, but I thought they would leave it till tomorrow. Can we go live to verdict? Yeah. It's here. We'll just have to watch the verdict. This is my first verdict watch stream, so I mean, this is the first time I'm doing a catch up to do a verdict. But oh gosh. Okay, so it's turned to that. Okay, so let me just share this. My first catch up as a verdict watch stream. Okay, so verdict is in. Hold on. So I'm there is no volume yet, so I'm waiting. Let me just I don't know what's going on here. I don't know why there's no volume. Is it just me? There is Patrick Stamford. Okay, so guys, what do you think? Vote in the poll. Hung jury, not guilty, or guilty? I don't think it's hung jury at this point. I don't think they'll come back this early with a hung jury. She's already crying. Do you really think that she actually commissioned this? Like, she actually took part in the commissioning of the murder?
Before the jurors are brought in and the verdict is published, I want to make sure everyone understands whatever the verdict will be in the case. I do not want there to be any gesturing or anyone making any movements.
That's not my end, by the way. That's actually them. So
we are going to respect what the
absolutely, there's already a verdict.
And we are not going to subject them to any displays of emotion, whether it be from the gallery or the parties. If anyone believes they are not capable of following this instruction, I'd ask you to step outside at this time. Mrs. Adelson also as well, once the verdict is read, again, I'm going to advise you, do not have any displays of emotion as best you can. You are to control yourself. Do you understand?
Okay. Oh gosh. Honestly, I do think her being this over emotional goes the wrong way in trials like this. She should try and contain her. Like, she should have, at least she remained composed during the trial, but if she was allowed to go free reign to give all of her emotions,
Please remain
it would have been a
seated
different
when the
story.
jurors come in this particular time.
Why is there echo? It's not on my end. I don't know why there's echo in the courtroom.
If the jury foreperson could please rise. Has the jury reached a unanimous verdict? Yeah. If you please can hand the verdict form to the bailiff.
This is why I don't like
Having reviewed the verdict form, it is in its proper order. At this time, I will publish the verdict.
I hate verdict watch so much. I really do.
We, the jury, find as follows as the count 1 of the indictment, first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder. Mrs. Adelson, control yourself. Count 2. We, the jury, find as follows as the count 2 of the indictment. Conspiracy to commit first-degree murder.
This absolutely not guilty.
The defendant is guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Count 3. We, the jury, find as follows as the count 3 of the indictment. Solicitation to commit first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of solicitation to commit first-degree murder. And it is signed and dated by the foreperson. One moment. Members of the jury, the bailiff will escort you to the jury room.
Oh, damn. I did not think that they'll find her on the lessons. I thought that it would just be the principal. I did not think that they'll find her on the lessons. That's me being honest. But,
Mrs. Adelson, while this was not the outcome I'm sure that you desired, there will not be any further outbursts in front of the jury. If you cannot control yourself, I am going to have to determine if you will be removed from the remainder of this process. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Do you need a moment to collect yourself? Before the jurors are brought back in, we will take a brief 2-minute break. Please give her tissues if she needs them. When the jurors are brought back into the room, does the defense wish to have the jurors polled before they are discharged?
Yes, Your Honor.
Very well.
okay. I'll just be honest. Ever since the Jonathan Majors trial, when I covered that and we done the verdict watch on here, I just never liked it. I hate verdict watch. I hate it. It's like watching penalties in a sports game, in a football game or something like that. Soccer, as you guys would call it.
So we can conclude with their portion of the trial.
So, I hate it. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I hate it. I hate the emotions that goes with it. I'd rather just, but what does she care? Is jail for life? There's no power over her now. The sentence is pre-decided. Oh. I thought they have to sentence differently because Florida has a death penalty. Isn't she going to get a death penalty? No, I can't do it. I cannot do it. I'm not going to lie. I'm not.
Jury, before I discharge you for this evening, I am briefly going to poll you concerning whether your verdict is unanimous at the request of one of the parties. When you hear your last name, please appropriately respond.
Okay, guys, what are we thinking? Did the jury make the right choice? I mean, I'm going to set up another stream anyway to discuss this verdict anyway. But seeming like this has turned into a verdict, a verdict watch stream. Somehow, just somehow turned into that. Wreck my plans completely. What do you guys think of? What do you guys think of this verdict? Is it justified? Do you guys agree with the verdict? Is it no sound on my end? Her life is basically over now. Trent Briggs says she can appeal, but I mean, it's not going to be successful. You guys, let's end the poll because we got the verdict now. So a few of you guys said it was hung jury. Not guilty was 33%. 50% was guilty. The guilty party.
You are discharged. Please listen carefully.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to thank you for your time and consideration of this case. I also wish to advise you of some very special privileges that are enjoyed by jurors. No juror can ever be required to talk about the discussions that occurred in the jury room except by court order. For many centuries, our society has relied upon juries for consideration of difficult cases. We have recognized for hundreds of years that a jury's deliberations, discussions, and votes should remain their private affair as long as they wish it. Therefore, the law gives you a unique privilege not to speak about the jury's work. Although you are at liberty to speak with anyone about your deliberations, you are also at liberty to refuse to speak to anyone. A request to discuss either your verdict or your deliberations may come from those who are simply curious, from those who might seek to find fault with you, from the media, from attorneys, or elsewhere. It will be up to you to decide whether to preserve your privacy as a juror. With that being said, I want to extend my thanks on behalf of the entire Second Circuit for your service in this matter. You are discharged. Have a good evening.
Oh, okay, so your jury has now been discharged. Guys, what do you think? Right verdict? I don't know. Should I start another poll? This is why I hate this is why
As to the jury's verdict, with the jury having found the defendant guilty of the 3 charges of the indictment, is the defense asking for a pre-sentence report on counts 2 and 3. As to count 1, the penalty is statutory, and essentially there is no modification for it.
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, pre-sentence investigation and report is ordered by the court as to counts 2 and 3. As to count 1, is there any reason why we cannot proceed to sentencing on this matter?
Your Honor, we would request an opportunity to ensure that our client is okay before we proceed to sentencing. It's my understanding that Charlie Adelson wasn't sentenced right away. We're asking for the same courtesy.
Very well. The court then will set a separate sentencing date.
May I inquire whether the family members that are present would like to give a victim impact now or at the future date?
Go ahead.
Okay. So this is what I don't know. This is why I think she should have taken a stand. I will always say without a doubt, she needs longer skirt, by the way. Damn. If you're gonna like sorry. Damn. She's not playing tennis. Like, anyway. My bad. That's just something I just noticed. But
It's fine.
she should have taken a stand.
Right there in front of the lectern.
She should have taken a stand. On 100%. Let me just. I don't know why this thing is echoing. Did you guys see the echoing on your end? I've stopped it, but it's still continuing. Oh wait, that's my bad. Okay, I just realized I had two browsers open, so it wasn't even echoing at all. Anyway, so I've never seen a media personnel wear that, like, and she was trying to like fall back to actually take the picture, like, but yeah, like, honestly, I did not expect it. Well, I'm not gonna say I did not expect it. There was grounds to reach a first-degree murder verdict here. I think the state did actually do enough, especially. But I don't think that the defense pushed. They had a cohesive theory, in my opinion. So I don't think that the jury were wrong at all. In fact, like I brought out, the $5,000 for the TV is just, the murder. Then at that point, you know what you were paying for when you took that money to Kathryn McBanoa. So that has to be said. But I thought it's because it happened after the crime had occurred. So I thought that the jury instruction, it may tilt one way or the other on how the jury interpreted, because the judge did say that the commission of the murder does make her a principal. So, but he also said that she had to be shown to have solicited it. So I thought that this may have caused a bit of confusion in regards to how to approach the lesser included charges. I thought that may have been the case, because they may have had to think of, well, do we have any communications? Because I do think objectively there are no communications whatsoever in regards to her actually soliciting the murder until after, when the White House was going on. It was only Garcia calling the Adelson Institute that kind of ties it all together. So it ties up in my opinion, it ties up that she does acknowledge that these people move in a tight-knit circle. But I thought that might confuse the jury a little bit in showing that she was actually soliciting them to commit this murder before the fact, to even reach the lesser included charges. I thought that she could have been found guilty on the first degree murder principle just based on the fact that she paid the money. But when it got down to the lesser included, I thought that may have reached a position where the jury are going to be like, actually, we're not going to find her guilty for that, because we just don't have proof that she actually did do this. But we know that based on the fact that she paid for it, she's also guilty as a principal. Because in my opinion, I think Charlie's the one that solicited all of it, in my opinion. But I don't think Wendi actually did it. But because she paid Charlie, because the money supposedly gone to Charlie, maybe, just maybe, they thought she was clearly part of it and using Charlie as a pawn. Who knows? So I'm gonna go back to the timeline of events, and I have updated it so you guys can go check it out. It's all in the description. It's on the Ketchup Court website as well, ketchupcourt.info. Go check that out. I give all my notes, all that I collect all through this trial. You can go check out. You can go and check that out there. But the part that I wanted to highlight here was something that was brought out in regards to the Halloween, when Charlie was approaching Kathryn McBanoa with the lawyers asking if she knows someone that can take care of people. That's the same time it coincided with Wendi pulling out for the house that she was gonna get. There was also another coincidence that I caught on here, and it was the cancellation of plans on the 4th of June 2014 when Luis Rivera and Sigfredo Garcia did not go through with the killing of Dan Markel the first time. And I do have a lot of force with that, because if they went through that killing and it was done there, I don't think all of these things happen. I don't think the knock-on effects on all of this happens. I think if you put it here, just here, I don't think you can prove. I don't think you can prove that. I don't think you can prove easily that Donna had involvement if it happened in June, in my opinion. The reason why I say if it happened in June, in my opinion, is because the way that Charlie had basically set it up, in my understanding, I think they were going to handle it without having to go through the Adelson Institute. But because they were trying to get him to do it the second time, they had to go through all of his guarantees to make sure that they pay the money, which is where the snowball effect happened from July, in my opinion, where they had to make sure that they make the payment quickly enough, because Dan was supposed to be out of the country. So the initial plan to have got it done, the initial plan, in my opinion, if it did go through, they would have found another way to pay that money, because in my opinion, Charlie had it without having to involve Donna. But because they had to work as quickly as they all did, that's where the mistakes occurred, and Donna implicated herself, because it was on the 19th. This was the main point. It was on the 19th when, not the 19th, the 18th, when here. So Wendi speaks with Donna informing her of Dan Markel's death at 7:10 p.m. and that was a jailhouse call. At this moment, she first calls Charlie at 7:12, and the defense highlighting that, I don't know why they will bring. I don't know. It just puts everything on Donna. This is why I don't blame the jury for inferring that all of this happened. And Donna was involved or guilty of all of it, because it's that one call that was made from Wendi in police custody to Donna to say that Dan was dead. Immediately after that, Donna calls Charlie, call us ASAP, outside your house. 10 minutes, I'll be there. Then Kathryn McBanua leaves Charlie's house the next morning. So many mistakes that I don't think happens if they had gone through, June. I would guess as well on this point. But yeah, so anyway, that's just my theory. The timeline of events are there. We went through that on the previous stream. We have gone a bit over the time because of the whole verdict watch. I was gonna recap on all the days of court, but we did do a long recap to yesterday, so you can go watch that on day 8. I'm not gonna hold you guys much longer. I appreciate every single one of you for tuning in. I'm going to do a verdict. I'm going to try and put together a panel to discuss this verdict and get other people's opinions in regards to other creators. So if I will, if you do wanna be on the panel, definitely drop me an email. My email is on my channel page. You can definitely drop me an email, and I will send you the link. But nonetheless, the case is over. Like, that's it. The jury has spoken. Donna Adelson is guilty on all 3 charges of first-degree murder, solicitation to commit first-degree murder, and conspiracy to commit I believe it was to commit a crime. That was the 3rd charge. just in my opinion, the jury did not get it wrong. I think that when they saw all the evidence come in, they probably didn't think twice. They probably were already convinced. But when you look over, in my opinion, the movements and her actions, I think hardcore evidence actually does pin her to actually do the crime. The evidence may be thin of her actually saying, yes, do this, or I want to kill Dan, or all those things. It might be thin, but you can see that on July, that's where all the mistakes were, in my opinion, made. So I'll leave it there. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Take good care of yourself. Have a great evening. Make sure that you check out the website, ketchupcourt.info, for all of the trial coverage. And, you know, hopefully it is a resource to help you catch up with this case if you've missed any part of this particular case. Also, consider becoming a tastemaker. Yes, you can join and become a member of the channel, or you can buy me a coffee. All of those links are in the description. Thank you ever so much, every single one of you, for tuning in. Take good care of yourself. Bye for now. Take care. Have a good evening or day wherever you are. Bye for now. Thank you everyone for tuning in for another Catch Up Court live stream. Make sure that you smash that like button as well as hitting that subscribe button to be notified of our future live streams. We go live regularly, bringing you case updates and recaps of ongoing trials. So make sure you hurry back on the next live stream. We also have more content on the channel that you can binge on. Check out the playlist that we have showcasing all of these contents. Without further, I go by the name of Heinz, your friendly neighborhood ketchup man, and I'll see you back in court.